Hello, this is the Chronosight Weekly Astrology Forecast with real stars. Let's begin the forecast for the latter half of May, from May 16th to the 31st, 2026. In late May, there are many significant planetary configurations, but there are a notable number of planetary stellar configurations that are currently lined up. Actually, by specifically using the PED method, we look at significant effective fixed stars. When a planet conjoins a star via PED, it creates a tangible and observable real-world effect. We call these effective stars, and they are most heavily concentrated within the signs of Gemini and Cancer. Since the planets are currently passing through Gemini and Cancer, there's a lot going on. Now, the first configuration actually occurs. As Mercury moves forward, Mercury is moving very fast right now. Its speed is about 150% of its average, so it's passing through quite quickly. Mercury meets Algol, kaput Algol. It's a notoriously malefic star in astrology. It meets Algol on May 16th, and this configuration is active on that very day. During this time, speaking too harshly might actually make you look quite pitiful to others. You know the old saying, a barking dog doesn't bite. A dog that really bites is the one that stays completely quiet. In any case, that's how it is. Speaking harshly to those around you is frequently a clear indication of anxiety or fear. Someone who's truly confident and prepared doesn't need to talk like that. So trying to bluff your way through with harsh words might just end up making you appear quite pathetic in the end. Also, precisely at the moment when you might imagine things are passing peacefully, despite the Algol conjunction, a completely unexpected and jarring accident might occur that abruptly jolts you back to reality. Now, exactly 2 days after that, Venus meets Betelgeuse. For quite a while, its overall luminosity decreased to such a significant degree that many people wondered if it had vanished entirely, but it was later revealed to be a complex binary star system. Anyway, the field of astronomy is a science that is constantly evolving and changing. Things that weren't at all obvious before have now become widely accepted facts within the scientific community. Regardless of that, Betelgeuse remains a very influential and important star. This specific configuration is active on May 18th. The Venus-Betelgeuse combination is quite good. It's like quietly making money without drawing attention. I think the actor Ryu Seung-soo once said something about this, wanting to be wealthy while remaining completely unknown to the world. So, even if you have a lot of money, it gets tiring if people around you find out, so the best thing is to be rich without anyone knowing. That's why the Venus-Betelgeuse combination is like that. It's a time when you can quietly make a significant amount of money through successful investments without showing off or letting others know. But this Venus-Betelgeuse combination has a bit of that quality. Since it cares a lot about maintaining dignity and saving face, you might spend a lot of energy, money, and time to keep up appearances behind the scenes. Well, it's like the story of the duck. A duck floats peacefully, but beneath the surface it's paddling its feet furiously. That kind of frantic paddling can lead to a significant drain on resources in human society as well. On the same day, Mercury meets up with Uranus and Alcyone. This happens on May 18th, and it's a configuration that's active from the 17th to the 18th. During this time, an unexpected bill might arrive and catch you off guard, so you thought you were in a position to receive money, but suddenly you have to pay it out, which is quite frustrating. Whether the amount is large or small, being in this situation makes a person quite edgy. So since unexpected expenses can pop up, you should definitely keep some sort of reserve aside. Now, on the next day, the 19th, Mars and Venus are, where are they now? Venus in Cancer and Mars in Taurus form a sextile at the very beginning, in the early 0 degrees. Since Venus and Mars aren't moving at very different speeds right now, this sextile will last for quite a while, from May 10th to the 28th. It's a configuration that lasts for nearly 3 weeks, But it really starts to manifest when both Venus and Mars enter new signs, so you can see it as being active from around the 17th, 18th, or 19th. The period before that is like a stage for laying the groundwork, a sort of omen before things actually happen. Now, this sextile between Venus in Cancer and Mars in Taurus is quite a headache. It's like, even though you've said no and refused, they're like, come on, let's do it, let's try it, why don't we date? It could be something like that. So it's easy for it to lead to a situation where someone is persistently clingy and demanding, even after being told no. So, some people might feel incredibly annoyed by this, while others might feel a subtle sense of affection. You never know what's in someone's heart. At the same time, an unplanned and spontaneous schedule might suddenly pop up due to a sudden whim, and as you follow it, you could easily end up with a completely surprising and unexpected result. This doesn't necessarily have a negative meaning. But this will be quite different from the fixed ways or the routines we're used to following, is what I'm saying. Now, just a day later, the red planet Mars meets with the distant star Mirach. This specific astrological configuration is active from May 19th all the way through to the 20th. Now, it is important to note that Mirach is likely Gamma Andromeda, or maybe Beta. Anyway, it is a star that represents a certain uninhibited and free-spirited aspect of Venus. So when it meets with Mars in the sky, unexpected things tend to happen quite often as well. You might get a completely unexpected reaction from unrefined or harsh words. While in most cases it's quite unpleasant, a small number of people might gain unexpected favor through something like a certain particular kind of charm. Or you might form a remarkably strange and unexpected connection with someone you never had the chance to interact with in your daily life, perhaps someone from an entirely different group that you previously thought you would never have a single compelling reason to be close to at any point. On that very same day, Mercury forms a significant T-cross configuration with the nodal axis. Because it is positioned exactly 90 degrees from both the north node and the south node, this specific alignment is technically referred to as the northern bending of the planet. But when Mercury encounters this northern bending point, it then meets the star Prima Hyadum, currently in the early 6 degrees of Gemini. It's a three-way setup. So, this configuration is fully active and influential from the 18th to the 21st. It is actually a fairly good situation during this time. It is about words or actions that come out of nowhere without any sort of prior plan, but from those random and spontaneous ideas, you might discover a special item that could be worth a significant amount of money. So at this time, your intuition needs to be very sharp and keen, just as the old saying goes. You need that keen and sharp sense of intuition to identify and select something truly special, instead of letting it just pass you by as an ordinary and mundane daily occurrence. There are significant downsides too, like unexpected troubles and hassles arising from a simple change of heart. Even those who don't usually change their minds might find themselves being unusually fickle now. Now, 2 days later, Mercury is moving very fast, jumping from 6 degrees to 10 degrees in just 2 days. That means it's moving almost 2 degrees a day. Mercury is in the east. It meets Aldebaran, the royal star of the east. It's the alpha star of Taurus. This configuration is active on the 22nd. Now, what is this Mercury-Aldebaran configuration? It is when someone with great talent and a solid network combines the two, so to speak, to achieve significant success through a synergy effect. You could say Mercury-Aldebaran is like a needle in a sack, as they say. No matter how hard you try to stay low-key, if you are naturally gifted, your excellence will keep standing out even without any special opportunities or events. It is bound to happen. Unexpected events may unfold where your true strengths are revealed, even if you consciously attempt to hide or not show them off. 3 days later, Mercury moves quickly again and meets Rigel, the beta star of Orion. This configuration is active from the 25th to the 26th, and it is a day that those in science and engineering, the scientific fields, will really like and welcome. It is a great period to put things into action, like submitting research papers or conducting important experiments. So, if there is what we call a situation involving a clear pass or failure outcome, when there is a competitive contest or a formal evaluation and approval process where a final decision is made, focusing your efforts on creating and submitting work that can easily pass during this time frame, well, timing your actions in that way will be very helpful for your success. Now, moving into almost the next day, the planet Mars moves forward and forms a dynamic square aspect with Pluto. We see Mars located at 5 degrees of Taurus as it squares Pluto, which is also at 5 degrees of Aquarius. This configuration is active from the 24th to the 28th. Now, at this time, it is like Arjen Robben's left foot shot, where you get beat even if you know it is coming. You know it, you know the pattern, you know the direction, but you just can't stop it. You clearly know it and you can anticipate it coming, but there is no way to avoid or solve it. When this happens, you just have to tank it. You have to endure it with your body. It is like an inevitable disaster. Well, disaster might sound scary, so let's call it inevitable stress or some kind of misfortune. It is easy to end up in a situation where you suffer because of such things. And also, you might face unfairness and feel a sense of disillusionment, like, do I really have to go this far to finish this work, even though it is something you have been working on for a long time? So if your will happens to falter at this point, you could end up wasting a lot of your valuable time. One day later, Venus, it then meets Alhena, the gamma star of the Gemini constellation. As for Alhena itself, I usually mention it only about once a year, but it has a high luminosity and is near the ecliptic line, in terms of its latitude. So, when viewed through the PED method, it's a star with significant influence relative to its luminosity. So, Venus and Alhena meet on the 27th, and it's active for 2 days from the 26th to the 27th. Now, there's nothing else to it. It's just about meeting people and going out. It's a really great day for that. Just have fun. It's a day to play without a care, and your spending will increase. Spending goes up more than usual, but you don't feel any sense of crisis. That's the problem. When spending increases, you should feel a sense of urgency, like, is it okay for me to spend this much today? The date the credit card bill comes out next month is... Normally you should think like this, but those thoughts just don't come. So you might act like someone with no future, like there's no tomorrow, and while that day was quite good, you might eventually regret it later on. Now, on the same day, Mercury enters the field of fixed stars I mentioned in early May, between the 20th and the 26th degrees of Gemini, where numerous stars are positioned at intervals of every 1 or 2 degrees. So that will continue from the 27th of the month through to the 31st. Naturally, many things, both good and bad, will happen quite hectically within a single day. When you look at the big picture, if you think about it, the final outcome, the net gain or loss, is actually quite mediocre and unremarkable. So in the end, there is not a whole lot of significant profit to be made or serious loss to be felt. It simply ends up feeling rather disorganized and chaotic. Therefore, it can often be a time that is just incredibly hectic and overwhelming, making it feel exceptionally difficult to discover even a small amount of genuine interest or fun in the process. Now, on the 29th, as Jupiter moves, it meets Pollux, the beta star of Gemini. It's a configuration that's active for about 10 days, from the 24th to June 3rd. Now, Jupiter and Pollux isn't that pretty. It's a very public legal dispute, like receiving a certification of contents or a complaint where interests are at stake. So, when I say legal, it doesn't just mean legal or judicial matters, but things that could have been settled quietly in private suddenly blow up publicly so that everyone unavoidably finds out about the trouble. then you end up deeply caring about what other people think of your reputation and feel forced to respond officially. Consequently, a complex dispute where it is very hard to reach a mutual agreement might occur. In other words, it's like this. It's not a competition to win or to decide victory or defeat. It is an intense and grueling struggle to completely force the losing side out of this entire competitive field of play, you know? What do they call this in the gaming industry? They call it a character deletion match. It's a high-stakes form of competition, where you wager the risk of your character's permanent deletion. So because the outcome is so heavy, the process is naturally heavy too. It's not just fighting or competing. Once it's over, the loser has to die. They won't be able to show their face in this scene ever again. Since it goes in such an intense and heavy way, the atmosphere will be quite chilling and eerie. Now, on that same day, Venus forms a square with Saturn. It's a situation where Venus in Cancer is being crushed by Saturn in Aries in a dominating square. This happens on May 29th and is active from the 25th to June 1st. Well, at this time it's quite something. Intense pressure constantly flows down from the very top, and severe disciplinary actions such as immediate firing or significant pay cuts follow, all while someone enjoys the intoxicating taste of power. You know, once they leave the company, they are just ordinary middle-aged men with protruding bellies in tracksuits and slippers. But inside, those with absolute power can easily crush those without it, just like tiny bugs. It is a defining time when the group's core values and rigid hierarchies are most starkly and clearly revealed to everyone. Generally speaking, scandals such as power trips or false accusations are likely to break out within the creative arts, media, or the fast-paced entertainment industries. Naturally, we have to ask, who exactly gets hit? It is those individuals with planets positioned between 9 and 15 degrees of the cardinal signs, specifically Cancer and Aries, in their personal natal charts. These specific artists or high-profile celebrities are the ones who will be significantly affected. I'm not sure who those people are, though. And on the other hand, there's what we call a hate-love relationship. Hate-love? A somewhat contradictory ambivalence where you have to maintain a relationship despite the hatred. Of course, for those who read romance fantasy, it seems like hate-love turns into real romance, but in reality that rarely happens. If it starts with hate, it usually ends with loathing. That's how human relationships usually go. But despite that, it's not just a matter of personal feelings. Business, money, and one's social reputation and role are all intertwined, so you can't avoid seeing that person no matter how much you hate them. In Mahayana Buddhism, this concept is known as Wonjongho-go, which is recognized as one of the 8 types of suffering. It's when you keep meeting someone even though you resent and hate them. It's enough to drive you crazy. Anyway, you might experience some of that ambivalence. The truth is you really hate that guy's guts, but without him, you simply can't survive at work. Without him, you can't close any deals. You just can't land those contracts. So you're forced to, even with a fake smile, work together. That kind of relationship may surface now. Now the next day, Mars meets Hamal, the alpha star of Aries. This will be in effect from May 29th to the 30th. At least with the Venus-Saturn square, Saturn has a valid reason to criticize Venus. But here, there's absolutely none of that. It's a kind of clear abuse of power. It's a time when problems arise from acting out, being reckless, and rushing things while abusing power. So, an individual who was once highly praised for their drive might fail to see that the surrounding environment has shifted and changed, overreached their bounds, and experience a sudden and painful fall to rock bottom. This is why you need to exercise at least some degree of caution now, because if you are just daydreaming in a state of exaltation, serious and significant problems will inevitably follow your path. This is because for Mars to meet Hamal, it must be in a state of detriment in Taurus. But Hamal itself is a star with the nature of Mars. So Mars in detriment, while moving through territory that is not suited for it, it comes across something just like itself. As a result, it ends up acting out even more by comparison. That's just how human nature works. If there were no suppression, it wouldn't act out, but that's what can happen now. And then the next day, Venus aspects Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. That's the alpha star of Canis Major. This configuration is active on the 31st. Now, Venus and Sirius represent the closest thing to unearned income among all planetary combinations. Without ever having to lift a single finger, without doing anything at all, profit just falls right into your lap like a ripe apple. And another thing that is quite a bit annoying, or perhaps distasteful is a better word for it, is those people with plenty of support, like those born with silver or even gold spoons in their mouths, the petite bourgeoisie and above, who never have any need to rush or worry, and who have never known what it is to lack. You will be able to get a fascinating glimpse into the lives of people just like that. Their parties and gatherings don't need to be grand, opulent, or flashy in any way, and they don't even feel the need to invite anyone else to join them. There's no reason to attract people or money. Why? Simply because there's no need to. The people who can enter that circle are very limited. It's a natural connection that doesn't require any force. You might encounter some unpleasant behavior from those around you. Meaning you're likely to face such situations during this time? Well, that's all for the Chronosight Weekly Horoscope forecast for late May 2026. Thank you.